We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you're able and join me in the welcoming of City Council and the playing the national anthem and the reading of the invocation.
Please remain standing as you're able as I read the invocation to start this City Council meeting for the month of November. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness, where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who've served our community, who are no longer with us, so that we continue to do the work that we must in their memory. Please be seated. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly, Councillor Van Tilborg. Here. Councillor Slets.
Present.
Councillor McCreary.
Here.
Councillor Sullivan.
Here and present.
Councillor Martin.
Here.
Councillor Caputo.
Present.
Councillor Hunt.
Present.
Councillor Samwell.
Here.
And Mayor Davis.
Present, and also Councillor Carpenter gave his regrets earlier this evening. And also, we don't have Councillor Sicoli here, and she's asked me to read this statement, which I think I will. She is going silent in an act of support for the Break the Silence on Domestic Violence campaign. She'll not be speaking or voting in an act of solidarity for all women who've been silenced by domestic violence and femicide across Canada. And recall on November 23rd, we raised the flag in Harmony Square and lit City Hall purple in support of the Wrapped in Courage campaign, which began 16 days of activism, and the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence campaign is honored around the world and is used as an organizing strategy by individuals and organizations to call for the prevention and the elimination of violence against women and girls. So with that, we'll move on to declarations of conflict of interest. Does any member of council have to declare a conflict regarding any matter that's on the agenda this evening? Councillor McCurry.
I have, Mayor. It relates to the induction of Mr. Bragg. I'm sorry, I don't have the number in front of me, but I'm sure the clerk can provide that. And as members of this committee will realize, members are required to declare a conflict of interest if there is a pecuniary interest. And as vague and tertiary as it is, Mr. Bragg is a great granduncle, so I will be abstaining from discussion or voting on his induction.
All right, any other declarations? Seeing none. So take items to be separated, and we have some items that are already being separated. 12.4.6 bylaw restrictions for copper and metal theft occurrences. There is a motion to refer, which I believe Councillor Van Tilburg will be bringing forward. 12.5.1, which is a 2023 variance update to include the Brantford Police Service. Councillor McCurry has an amendment. So any other separations? Councillor McCurry.
12.4.1, which is the major sports liaison. 12.5.2, finance capital. 12.5.3, casino third quarter. And I believe we have the Matt's item separated for an emergency resolution.
Yeah, it's actually 4, I think, isn't it? Yeah, if it's a third quarter casino update. Yes. It's 12.5.4. Yep, okay. Yes, in the matter that you declared a conflict in. I would like 12.1 separated. That is the Joint Services Committee report. Anybody else want anything separated? Seeing no raised hands. I'd ask Councillor Van Tilburg, can you bring forward the resolution, please, to approve the items that have not been separated?
Moved by myself, second by my ward mate, Councillor Samwell, that all items contained within committee reports 12.1 to 12.7 not separated for discussion purposes be approved.
Clerk, can you read the title of the items we're about to vote on?
Starting from the Committee of the Whole Operations Report, the following items are subject to the vote. 12.1.2 Community Gardens Corporate Policy Update, 12.13 Public Works Fleet Policies Update, 12.14 Robert Moore Park from the Estimates Committee Report, 12.21 the 2024 Shared Social Services Budget Approval from the Social Services Committee Report, 12.31 Service Agreement Framework for Community Housing Providers from the Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report, 12.42 Lane Closing and Conveyance, Lawrence Street, Lyons Avenue, Ridgewood Drive, and Abigail Avenue. 12.43 License Agreement for Air Monitoring Station, 324 Grand River Avenue. 12.44 Sign Bylaw Amendment regarding billboard signs. 12.45 Community Physician Recruitment 2023 Program and 2024 Action Plan. 12.47 National Housing Co-Investment Funding for Renovation, Repair, and Renewal. 12.48 Condolence Procedure. 12.49 Memorandum of Understanding with Lansdowne Children's Center. 12.410 Sick Kids Fundraiser. From the Finance Committee Report, 12.53 Update to Finance Policies. From the Planning Committee Report, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, TZ 0323 672 Powerline Road, and that's item 12.61. 12.62 Zoning Bylaw Amendment, TZ-1123 380 to 384 Erie Avenue. From the Appointments Committee Report, 12.71 Appointments members of council to various committees, boards, advisory committees, and task forces. 12.72 Appointment of citizen members to various boards, and 12.73 Appointment of liaison members to various committees and task forces.
Please take the vote.
Through the chair, we're just waiting for Councillor Samwell's vote. There we go. The motion to approve all items not separated carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCurry, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
Right, we have no statutory public hearings on the agenda for this evening. And so we'll move into recognitions of achievement. And this evening, we're doing something very special that we haven't done in almost 5 years because of the pandemic. And what we're doing, something that would normally happen on an annual basis, and it's inducting candidates into the wall of recognition that we have here at City Hall. We have both honor modern day candidates, those who've recently served. And then we also have a number of historical inductees. And we're doing quite a few tonight because we have a bit of catch up to do for the last 3 to 4 years. But this is the way that City Council recognizes former members of City Council who were of long-standing service to the city and our community, and also exemplary service, recognizing some recognition. It is often, it's a hard road to hoe sometimes for politicians, not often much appreciation expressed for their service to the community. And this is a way that we here at City Council, both through our policy and our actions, wish to recognize the very important service that others have provided before us, and important contributions that go a long ways towards improving and making our community better, and that there should be such recognition. So with that, I'm going to have the Mayor of the Month, Councillor Sless, who also is the longest serving member of City Council here tonight. Councillor Carpenter has a few more years. So I think it's appropriate that Councillor Sless come down with me and assist me as the Mayor of the Month in recognizing the candidates that are going to be inducted today. And so we'll take each candidate and do them in order, starting with modern day candidates. So Councillor Sless, if you'd come with me. So the first candidate that we're recognizing today and inducting is one of the modern day candidates. And who we're recognizing is Chris Friel, former mayor of the city of Brantford. And I'm going to have Councillor Sless, who served for many years with Mayor Friel, to read the biography. And then after that, I'll read a letter that Chris has asked be read. So if you would proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As one of the youngest mayors in Canadian history, Chris Friel was elected mayor of the city of Brantford in 1994 at the age of 27, and was subsequently re-elected to 4 more terms, 97, 2000, 2010, and 2014, encompassing an impressive political career spanning nearly 2 decades of service to Brantford. Bringing together municipal, provincial, and private sector partners, Chris led and oversaw the establishment of Laurier Brantford, as well as Laurier Brantford YMCA, creating a legacy of post-secondary education and investment in Brantford's downtown. Among his many other accomplishments was the historic boundary agreement with the County of Brant in 2016 that saw 2,454 hectares of land transferred to the city, securing shared prosperity for both communities while strategically planning to accommodate the community's projected future growth. Under Chris's leadership, the city was successful in procuring federal and provincial funding to remediate the 50-acre Mohawk Greenwich brownfield site, ultimately setting the stage for development of the Mohawk Lake District. He also championed the city's accommodation strategy that resulted in the purchase and renovation of 58 Dalhousie Street as Brantford's new city hall. Additionally, he led efforts to bring GO Transit service to Brantford, providing vital access to attract innovation and investment in the city. Chris also worked continually to build strong relationships with the local Indigenous groups. As an avid and passionate city history buff, his knowledge of Brantford and the surrounding area's history is unparalleled. With the development of visionary initiatives such as Smart Brantford, Safe Brantford, and Healthy Brantford, as mayor, Chris dedicated substantial efforts to improving opportunities and the overall quality of life for all City of Brantford residents.
So Chris has asked that we read this letter tonight explaining why he's not here tonight, and thanking. And he would like to, and these are Chris's words, I would like to thank you for the honor of being inducted to the City of Brantford's Wall of Recognition. When we started the Wall of Recognition, it was to honor Alderman Councillor Joe Brennan And it certainly was time to recognize those who've committed themselves to public service, many across generations. I went into politics as someone committed to service to fellow human beings with a drive and a desire to progress our society, revel in education and learning, find compromise and common purpose, and simply to make things better. In my first campaign, we promised energy, enthusiasm, and passion, and we delivered on that promise. There should be extraordinary little I in politics, except for the two in the word, but I would like to thank so many family, friends, colleagues, opponents, activists, and many individuals who made 17 years as mayor an epic experience. I'd particularly like to thank the late Helen Jadrasky, who passed away in March of 22, Josie Mannon and Robin Matthews Osmond, who served as colleagues and friends and the right hand of the mayor. I have been told that I can be a lot. That's the polite way to say it. Those are his words. But Helen, Joe, and Robin never skipped a beat. They were consummate professionals. And knowing them all three, I agree with Chris. I'm not with you this evening because I'm very awkward when it comes to personal recognition. And I have a tendency to say what I think when I feel awkward. And no one wants that to happen in front of a microphone. Seriously, it has been my practice to stay out of the sphere of City Hall when not in office, early in administration, because it is the right thing to do, allowing the new council to establish itself, and later because I'm not at the table and I don't have all the facts that go into decision-making, exerting uninformed, impending influence is never welcome. Your worship, councilors, thank you again for this tremendous honor. It does my heart proud to know that my name will rest alongside many intelligent, caring, innovative, progressive individuals who work to make Brantford a great hometown. Sincerely, Chris Friel. And so I now ask members of council, if there are any members of council, if they would like to, if they have, especially those who served with Chris, if you have any comments you'd like to make. Well, you're the longest serving.
Yeah, I would personally like to say thanks to Chris. I think he hit it on the head. He can be a lot sometimes, and he was. But I think his heart was always in the right place. Whether his actions were is to be debated, but he was certainly someone who cared about his community, and you can't take that away from anybody. He was here, I think, for all the right reasons. And I think it was his biography that was written, I think, kind of says what needs to be said about what Chris accomplished. He did a lot in his time here. He was here a long time, and the list is long of the accomplishments that he made. So personally, I'd like to say congratulations to Chris. I think the last time I spoke with Chris was a few years ago, and he called me about an issue in the ward. We disagreed, and he hung up on me. So that's the last time we spoke. So unfortunately, he's not here this evening because we could certainly make amends there, and I wish Chris nothing but the best in the future. Thanks.
Yeah, what I would like to say as the only person here who actually is a mayor and really understands what it is that you go through when you're mayor and the impact it has on you personally and also on your family and also in your career trajectory. And especially for Chris, I can really fully appreciate what he did and the sacrifices he had to make to do what he did to make our city better. And there's absolutely no question through his efforts, our city is better. It's much improved. Laurier probably bringing Laurier here to Brantford, probably one of his single greatest achievements. And we see that today, the impact upon our downtown and our city with Laurier continuing to grow and becoming ever more vital to the renewal of our downtown and now, of course, Conestoga. And also the excellent decision that Chris and the council of the day, 2 councils ago, made in purchasing this property, this very historic property from the federal government, and then leaving it, and then developing the initial plans to convert this into the wonderful building that it's become and serving our community in a different way, and also ensuring that the building will last for generations to come. So I want to say that I really I feel a lot of gratitude for Chris in terms of really devoting the better part of his working career to politics and serving our city. And there's no question in my mind he is a well-deserving candidate for admission to the Hall of Recognition, and I'm quite pleased that I'm here taking part in it. So with that, we'll move we'll move to the next modern day inductee. And where are you, John? There you are. So this is, we're recognizing John Utley. And former Councillor Utley, would you please come forward? We'd like to have you stand beside us if you would. Well, we had to wait for your turn to ask you up here. So this is a particular privilege for me to do this, be involved in this, because yes, I served the last 4 years with John Utley in his last term as councillor. And also I've known John personally for many years, and we've both been involved in one of the local Rotary clubs. And so before I even served with John, I understood and knew him quite well to be the wonderful, even-tempered, calm, compassionate. Yes, where he is. You know, you didn't see him in action. I did. And, you know, Councillor Utley brought to us a certain calmness that would often bring the temperature down in the room, which was very important to have members of council do that. And also his devotion to economic development and his passion for getting to know all of the industries in town, helping to attract business to town. And also, what was that mantra? Continuous improvement. How can I forget it? Because you also inspiring staff to work, and counselors to work towards continuous improvement. So very honored to read your bio. John Utley was first elected to Brantford City Council in 2010, and he served for 12 consecutive years representing the citizens of Ward 2. During his tenure, he worked on numerous committees and task forces, including the Finance Committee, the Economic Development Advisory Committee, the Brantford Power Board, the Brantford Library Board, and the Downtown Brantford Business Improvement Area Board of Management. John's decision to run for public office was strongly influenced by his extensive community involvement, founding member of Kids Can Fly, Brant United Way Campaign Committee, 12 years, Rotary Sunrise Club honorary member in 2015, and a citizen member since 2022, serving as president-elect. John is a recipient of the Queen's Jubilee Medal and a Rotary Paul Harris Fellowship. As a proud and passionate supporter of business in Brantford, Councillor Utley was part of 2 economic development missions to Mitsui operations. Perhaps you can pronounce this for me. Kitakesku, Kyushu Island, and the Canadian Embassy in Tokyo. Good thing I wasn't on that. Japan, that paved the way for Mitsui High-Tech Inc. to grow their North American operations here in Brantford, undergoing recently several major expansions. He was also invited to China to be the keynote speaker to Sino-Canadian Education Forum, promoting Brantford as a place for seniors to learn Canadian culture at Victoria Academy. An enthusiastic supporter of golf, John was a citizen member of the Golf Management Board and chaired the board from 2008 to 2010. He subsequently served on the Golf Governance Review Task Force in 2013 and 2014, the Golf Operations Transition Task Force in 2014 and 2015. John's dedication to Brantford was marked not only by his active involvement in numerous communities and committees and boards, but by the deep-rooted passion he held for his community. John Utley's legacy of one of selflessness, leaving an indelible mark on the city and its people through his remarkable kindness and tireless dedication. And I know that Councillor Celeste has a few words to say because, of course, he and John served together as the 2 representatives for Ward 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, it was John that took my seat on City Council in 2010. Due to an unfortunate lack of votes, I came second in the mayor's race and took a leave of absence for 4 years before coming back in 2014 to join John. And we served the last 8 years together. It, for those on council, I'm probably speaking to the most. If you have a ward mate, when there's two per ward that you don't get along with, or you don't see the world the same way, it's a very long 4 years. John's 8 years flew by. We became not just ward mates, we became friends. And I think that is so important and so valuable to the city because it makes things work better and things just happen that wouldn't happen if you didn't have that type of a relationship with your ward mate. So to John, my friend, enjoy your retirement. I know you're doing your best to do that, and you'll continue to do that. And you'll be getting company soon, maybe even after this term. So congratulations, John, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with you, and the city is much better because of it. Thanks, John.
Any other member of council like to say something? Yes, Councilor Caputo.
Hey, brother. Congratulations, man. I never had a chance to serve with John, but I had a chance to serve John a lot of meals over the last 13 years we've known each other. He's my mentor. He guided me through this process. When I think of John, I think of the 3 C's. His character, his conduct, and his conversation. And I hope that during my time here on council, I can live up to those same things. I love you, brother. Congratulations. Thank you.
Councilor McCreary and then Councilor Van Tilburg.
Mayor, thank you. During his time on council, John would often put staff on the spot and he would say, could you tell me 3 things about this issue that are most important to you? John, could you tell us 3 things about retirement?
Councilor Van Tilburg.
As a greenhorn coming on to council in 2014, I didn't know John Utley. But I was very impressed when I did get to know him. We would meet in some of the council meetings behind closed doors, and I heard this guy and he could talk industry. He could talk economic development. He was actually talking about all the things that I ran to come into office for to address. And so when I heard continuous improvement, 6 Sigma, 5S, I'm going, this is the guy that's going to make some changes here. And one of the first things in that term when the Mitsui was out there to be reeled in, John and Chris Friel went and took that trip, make that deal happen. That said everything. Now, what you have to understand is that if you get used to John, you will hear continuous improvement over and over again. You will hear these processes. But when he came back from Japan, oh, he had stories of garbage and cigarette butts and how everything was taken care of, the complete cultural difference that he wanted to bring here. And I'll tell you, those stories were just amazing. And so I was listening to those, and I know that while you didn't accomplish them all while you were here, you did do a number of things. And one that I'm most appreciative of is Six Nations Polytech and bringing that into Brantford. We didn't have anything of a technical orientation. We just lost Mohawk College just a few years before. So John was very instrumental in bringing that. And then now I see John's on the BIA, continuing to help and continuing to work on those things to keep, well, I guess what you brought back from Japan, that clean society that you talked about. And I'm sure you'd be happy to tell us about that trip at some point in time, because I think that was a huge difference.
Now, John, you can speak.
Thank you, Kevin. It's on. Is it on? Wow. Now I'm all nervous. Mayor Davis, members of council, city staff, family, friends, colleagues, and family members who have been recognized this evening. First, allow me to begin by congratulating former Mayor Chris Friel on his much-deserved induction to the Wall of Recognition. I had the pleasure of working with Chris on my first 2 terms, 2010, 2018. One memory I will always remember was our invitation to visit Mitsui High-Tech at their operations in Kitakyushu, Japan in 2016, and again in 2018. I believe that visit galvanized our relationship with Mitsui, with the result being their continuous expansions of operations in the Northwest Business Park. Chris, I wish you good health and a long and happy life. To the other members that have been inducted this evening in the historic category, I offer my congratulations to the families of Walter Bragg, Charles Hartman, John Bowlby, and John Matthews. They all served during some pretty tumultuous times, some during the First World War and possibly the Second. So tough times, you know, COVID was difficult, but I'm sure during those world wars, it was a far different story. Serving my community as a councillor for Ward 2, excuse me, and the city has been a great honor and privilege from 2010 to 2022. During my 62-year career, there's been no other experience like it. Nothing comes anywhere close to running a city. I found contact with the public rewarding and helping them with their problems or offering guidance every day brought new challenges. The odd time something truly bizarre would we get from a constituent. And I remember John and I being called to the house of someone, I won't say who, but it was involved black magic by her neighbor, and she thought she was having curses played on her. So, and I thought, wow, that's a first. We'll never hear anything like that. But we do, you know, it's bizarre, some of the things that people have problems with. So most of the time, you know, we could solve many problems, but not, you know, you can't score 100% all the time. And it's the same with council. You do your best with what you got. I couldn't have done it all without the wonderful support of our staff, who were just amazing and made my job so much easier and gratifying. So thank you, staff, for it. I came prepared. I knew I'd thank, oh, thanks, John. Yep. Oops. Where the heck was I? So, so to staff, I say thank you for all your help during my 12 years on council. My first term was by far the most challenging, adjusting to a more bureaucratic environment from my career in the fast-paced auto parts sector. There's a good reason for this, as municipalities are very much controlled by the province of Ontario. Many people don't know that, and we're often working with one hand behind our backs. In my third term, dealing with the COVID pandemic was a massive challenge for everyone on council and healthcare providers in Brantford, Brant, and every other municipality. During dealing with the pandemic, took its toll on virtually everyone at all levels of society, especially our healthcare professionals. Mayor Davis and CEO Hutchings provided outstanding leadership during the pandemic, which none of us were prepared for. Hopefully, we will never see another pandemic on that scale in our lifetimes. My proudest moments on council, my first resolution to design and install a beautiful memorial to children who have passed away. Didn't matter what age they were. The loss of a son by, you know, who's got an 85-year-old mother, it's still as painful as losing a young child. Implementing the I missed a bit here. Survivors were invited to design and insert ceramic pieces into these upraised arms on the memorial, which gave special lasting meaning and comfort to families and friends. Other proud moments include the naming of the Walter Gretzky Golf Club clubhouse banquet room after me and Pat. Very, very special. Implementing the Clean Brantford initiative, purchasing land along the Grand River Ave behind the 56th Field Artillery Armory was a good first step to having a park in the city that overlooks our beautiful Grand River. Let's make it happen, council. The restoration of the captured World War I German howitzer and Jubilee Park improvements, including lighting. I thank my Ward 3 mate, Councilor McCreary, for his help and friendship during that interesting project. And it was interesting. And there are numerous other Ward 2 parks, especially Dufferin Park and tennis courts, which is being developed into a park befitting of its history. My ward mate, John Sless, was a big help during our 2014, 2022 terms. And I thank you, John, for your deep knowledge of the city and for your support. You were such a pleasure to work with. And as you said, I'm proud to call you my friend and your wonderful wife, Irene. As a councillor and citizen, I did my best to follow the aspect of service before self and the four-way test of Rotary. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? These values help my thought process when making decisions and dealing with others. There's no greater feeling than helping others, especially those that are in need. Only another 20 minutes. I am who I am because I was raised by parents who loved and cared for us and taught me and my two sisters about the values of being honest, hardworking, and helping each other. We didn't have much materially, but we had love, fun, and laughter. What else could we possibly want? Meeting Pat and raising our two children, David and Jennifer, is the foundation of my life in Canada. Pat was my rock and filled me with confidence as my career advanced. I miss her terribly. My family in Oxfordshire filled me with love and pride across 3,500 miles of land and ocean, but always on my mind, especially my daughter Penny and sisters Janice and Hillary. My other source of pride and joy are my grandchildren in Canada and the UK, Charlotte, Dolly, Tom, William, Dylan, Elizabeth, and Jessica. I'm so proud to introduce my immediate family here this evening. My son, David, my daughter, Jen, my grandson, Dylan, and my niece, Deb Hamill. To my great long-time friends, some of us here tonight, thank you for your decades of great times. And more recently, excuse me, with your support during the loss of Pat. My colleagues and friends from local businesses, Peter, Dave Prang, I'm so happy that that you're here tonight. It's very, very special. Several of you were very helpful during my election campaigns, especially Mike and Linda Woodburn, who are here, Burt Barker, Mike Hancock, Murray Angus, Bill Hyatt, Phil Race, Kirby Brown, and plus many more. Friends and colleagues with us, former World One from Dave, I just said people, Howard and Margaret Offenhammer, longtime friends, and Howard and I go back over 40 years promoting apprenticeships in the city. Scott Saint, so glad you're here, and I wish you the best of health, my friend. There he is at the back, hiding as usual. And Paul Kwasnick, past president and CEO of Brantford Power and Brantford Energy Corporation. What an amazing time we had with the merger. Something that only happens probably once in a lifetime, and we were there doing it. It was incredible. Jeff and Judy Moore, my longtime colleagues at the city, and also become very close friends. And Andrea Beristavenko, my friend, the president of the Rotary Club of Brantford Sunrise. Thanks for joining us this evening. Mayor Davis, you and council are taking our city to a new level under your leadership. Keep up the great work as we enter truly exciting times in our city. Costco, the most asked about question in the past 12 years. It's just pretty amazing. that it's actually happening. You know, this is at long last, you know, we're seeing the Linda Mall develop, and there'll be so much more happening on that property. We won't recognize it. The possibility of GO train service in the future is huge and will provide relief to drivers on the 400 series highways. And this will be a big attractor for developers and businesses. Before I close, I have to say, I just have to get this out. So, you know, I got a thing about litter in the city, and that was one of the takeaways from visiting Japan. They have no litter. They have no garbage receptacles because every citizen takes responsibility for the litter that they own. So I ask everyone, all citizens and businesses, to play their part in keeping our beautiful city clean from litter and cigarette butts. That's, you know, has become a real eyesore. Thank you for this wonderful honor to be inducted on the Wall of Infamy. I'm sorry, recognition. This is such a proud and humbling experience just for doing my job. So I thank you sincerely and wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season and a happy and healthy 2024.
Yep.
John, you mentioned my name of the years of friendship. I would like to say to you, for the many seeds you showed just beneath the auspice here, you never was tired of talking and telling the stories of your father in the hospice. Thank you for that. Today we have one here.
Thank you very much. And John, I will say, I didn't want to mention litter, but that was your recent legacy. And John and I would actually work together at Rotary Club and clean up Waterworks Park every spring. And it's been remarkable with the public education campaign you led that over the last 4 or 5 years, it seems like there's less and less need for us to do the litter collection because people are littering less, due in large part to the work that you've done. And that's a small thing, but it has a major impact on the beauty of our city and its livability. So with that, we're going to take a few pictures, and then family members and friends can come up for a few pictures, but we'd ask you to consider we do have a full agenda tonight. So please, let's keep moving along. So pictures now. What we're going to do is we're now going to move the tripod and the picture out into the foyer so that John's friends and family members can take pictures with him and with the picture right in front of the wall of recognition. All right. You can take it, just don't drop it, okay? Yeah, really. I'm so- Well, we'll take it outside of the foyer and we have a tripod out there and you can take.
It's an heirloom.
Okay. We'll just carry on. So we're now going to be doing the historical inductees and, you know, we'll give you a few minutes to, so the friends and family and of John, if you wouldn't mind going to the foyer, you can take some pictures with the bio and the wall of recognition in the background. Be a great picture taking opportunities out there. And thank you very much for all of you coming and showing your friendship, love and devotion to John. So now Councillor Sluss and I are going to recognize some of the historical inductees. And we're going to start with Walter Bragg. And I'd just like to say this about the historical inductees. These are people who would have served, some of them in the early 1900s, some in the mid 1900s. And it's really been fascinating. We had a reception for an hour or so before the council meeting tonight, and we have present with us. We don't actually have the historical inductees. Many of them have long since passed, but we have the second, third, and sometimes fourth generation telling us some very interesting stories about their deceased relative who made a contribution. So we have 4 of them tonight, and we're going to start with Walter J. Bragg. And Walter J. Bragg served as alderman for Ward 4 between 1912 and 1948 for a total of 13 years. He was a member of the Board of Works, the Buildings and Grounds Committee, the Fire and Light Committee, the Railways Committee, the Finance Committee, the Industrial Committee, the General Executive Committee, the Children's Aid Society, Housing Commission, Home of the Aged and Infirm Committee, and spent 8 years as a representative of the House of Refuge. He was chairman of the Railways Committee in 1915 to 1916, chairman of the Fire and Light Committee in 1919, and chairman of the Buildings and Grounds Committee in 1917, 1918, and 1926. And we have family members in attendance, Norman T. Bragg, Brian Jenkins, and Barbara Jenkins with us tonight. And if you'd like to come forward, and we'll take a picture of, this is the picture in the bio, which I actually just read, that will be placed later this week on the wall of recognition. So members of the Bragg family, come on up. So next, you're going to read this one now, John. Wedgwood Bowlby.
Here. Next is John Wedgwood Bowley, born in 1837 in Waterford, Ontario, and pursued a career as a lawyer for over 60 years. He was elected as alderman in 1871 for East Ward and served for 5 non-consecutive years. In 1892, he was elected as alderman for Ward 4 and served sporadically for 6 years. Mr. Bowlby was mayor in 1907, 1908, 1916, and 1917. In his last year as mayor, he was the only member of City Council to sit on the Board of Health. During this time on council, Bowlby was also chairman of the Building and Grounds Committee, as well as chairman of the Finance Committee. He died in 1923 and is buried in Mount Hope Cemetery. He was also a member of the Bell Memorial Association in his capacity as mayor when the monument was unveiled. Please join me in recognizing John Wedgwood Bowlby on his induction into the City of Brantford's Wall of Recognition. Are there members of the family here? No? Okay, no. Okay, thank you. Mr.
On to the next. So the next inductee is Charles H. Hartman. Picture beside me. Charles Hartman was born in 1852 in Buffalo, New York. He was elected as an alderman in Ward 4 in 1903 and served in that position for 6 years until 1911. 8 years. During that time, he served on several committees and was chairman of the Fire, Light, and Sewers Committee and chairman of the Board of Works. In 1912, he was elected as mayor and served in that position for 2 years. In 1928, he was elected as alderman for Ward 3 and served for 4 years, during which time he was chairman of the Relief Committee and chairman of the Board of Works. Mr. Hartman was also on the first board of the Brant Sanitarium. C.H. Hartman was a 25-year member of the old volunteer fire brigade, and he started as a torch boy. Hope that didn't mean that he started fires. He was also a member of the Fireman Drill Corps and drill instructor for the Hook and Ladder Fire Company as a drill instructor. He died in 1932 in Brantford and is buried in Greenwood Cemetery. So please join me in recognizing, very belatedly, Charles H. Hartman on his induction into the Wall of Recognition. So now we'll come over here to the John H. Matthews, and Councillor Celeste will read this, and we have a number of members of the Matthews family here. As I found out, because John Matthews had 10 children, one of whom is actually here today with us. So Councillor Celeste, you can take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm starting to feel old because they're all aldermen. And the first year I got elected, I was an alderman. And then we changed to councillor in the subsequent year. I think the mayor and I are the only two on the current council that were elected as aldermen. So we're going back a few. Anyway, John H. Matthews was born in 1888 in Guernsey Channel Islands. J.H. Matthews was a longtime alderman and two-time mayor of the city of Brantford. He was elected to city council as a Ward 2 alderman in 1925 and remained in that position until 1930. His committee work included Fire and Light Committee, Railways Committee, Building and Grounds Committee, and the Board of Health. By 1930, he also sat on the Relief Committee, which was formed in response to the economic downturn of the 1930s. He was not reelected for the next 2 years, served for 1 year in 1933, and was not reelected again until 1942. He served 6 consecutive years from 1942 to 1947. During this time, his interests were primarily finance, as well as committees relating to health and welfare of the citizens of Brantford. J.H. Matthews served for a total of 13 years, becoming mayor in 1946 and in 1947, at the end of the Second World War. He was an active member of the Board of Governors for the Brantford General Hospital and was a member of the mechanical staff of the Brantford Expositor. He was in his 41st year of service at the Expositor when he died in 1956. J.H. Matthews is buried in Farrington Burial Grounds. And I believe
And we have family members in attendance. Barbara Rutherford, the last surviving child of Mr. Matthews. And we also have Kim Nagel, Mike Delzenick, Nancy Rutherford, Gord Ayers, Melissa Males, Jennifer McLaughlin, Ben McLaughlin, Rich Morrison, Rick Matthews, and perhaps Mrs. Rutherford, if you'd come up and take the picture with us. And I realized there are other members of the Matthews family. There's so many of you that came out here tonight. We lost track of some of you. But we will, perhaps we can move we'll move this out to the foyer and can take lots of pictures. How's that? All you members of the Matthews family. So many of you.
Representation.
Okay, don't drop it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so we'll move to, we have no proclamations, we have no registered delegations this evening. And we do have the clerk's report and communications. Perhaps Councillor Caputo, can you please move the motion, receive the clerk's report and communication for November 2023?
That the clerk's report on communication for November 2023 be received.
Councillor Sluis, you second that?
Yes.
Great. All right. So if we can call the vote, please.
The clerk's report of communication carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Toborg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, we'll move to minutes. Councillor Martin, would you please move the motion to adopt the minutes listed on the agenda and state your seconder?
Yes, I move, seconded by Councillor McCreary, that the following minutes be adopted. 11.1 Special Council, October 10th. 11.2 Special Council, Private and Confidential, October 10th. 11.3 City Council, October 24th. And that the following minutes be approved. 11.4 John Noble Home Committee of Management, November 8th. And I believe it's supposed to be 11.5, although it's listed as 11.4. John Noble Home Committee of Management, Private and Confidential, November 8th.
Right, any errors, omissions on the council minutes? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
The minutes carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor are Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, Councillor Celeste, can you please read the motion to go to committee reports, placing all separated items from all the committee reports on the floor?
Yes, if I could have that brought up, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. It's moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Caputo, that all items in the committee reports, items 12.1 to 12.7, separated for discussions, be approved.
All right, so we'll take up the matters that have been separated and we'll deal with them as they appear on the agenda. First is 12.1.1, the Brantford and City, County and Joint Services Committee report. I actually asked for that to be separated. Does anybody want to speak to that before I speak to it? I can go for it. I'll go for it then. So the reason I wanted to speak to this is because really hasn't come forward publicly. There was the meeting of the Joint City County Committee, but obviously did not take place in council chambers. And I say this, that the Joint City County Committee, it's intended to build upon the legacy of cooperation between Brantford and the County of Brant, and to realize for residents, the residents of both municipalities, the benefits that come from sharing services. And that can be more efficient delivery of services, that can be delivering services that neither municipality is able to provide, but can do so together. It can mean cost reductions for the taxpayer in both communities. And it can also lead to reduced duplication and thus providing more effective and costly service. That's the goal. And so we had our inaugural meeting last month, and we have 5 members from the county, 5 members from the city council, the mayors as well, and of course, city and county staff supporting it. And I can say that I think we got off to a very good start. What we did was very general in nature, but we did provide the city and county staff with a list of areas that we wanted them to focus on in determining whether or not there was a potential to provide these services jointly or in some joint fashion. And those areas are animal control, automated speed enforcement, household hazardous waste, IT security, the Green Bin Organic Program, shared procurement of services and equipment, sports and recreation facilities, transit, transportation, physician recruitment, and of course, the municipal airport. And I can say that I thought we were off to a very good start with all members, I think, showing a good faith effort in what I think was a sincere desire to explore the potential of shared services. And hopefully we will see results over the next 6 to 18 months, and that this will pay dividends for the residents of both the city and the county. That is my hope. So with that, any other comments? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote on that.
Item 12.11 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councilors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll now move to the next item separated, which is 12.4.1. It's the Major Sport Teams Liaison Committee Report. And Councilor McCreary, yes, you asked for this to be separated.
Yes, I did, Mayor. Thank you very much. Just to reiterate our discussion from committee night, the Major Sports Liaison Committee is doing yeoman's work. I am chair, Councilor Samwell provides able input, so does Councilor Carpenter and the mayor. We've met with a number of sports teams, major sports teams. They've provided us with input that they're quite forthcoming in small groups. And so staff have taken to heart some of the comments that we've received, and we're underway with improvements. And couldn't speak more highly of our staff and of our sports partners in this community. And I believe it was Councilor Carpenter that said at committee day that we're also going to be looking at attracting other sports as well as supporting those that make Brantford their home. Among them basketball, perhaps things like ladies hockey. So all good. We'll be continuing good work like this throughout the year, and we'll be back to report to council on a regular basis.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 12.4.1 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councilors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
Next item is item 12.4.6, the bylaw restrictions for copper and metal. And I believe Councilor Van Tilburg, you have a motion of referral.
I do, Mayor Davis, through you. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Samwell, that item 12.4.6 be referred back to staff in order to provide bylaw amendments that are in keeping with the Alberta Court of Justice decision RV Karula 2023 AB CJ 235, and that staff report back in March 24 meeting cycle.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote.
The referral to item 12.4.6 carries on a recorded vote of 8-1. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councilors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Martin Caputo, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councilor Hunt.
All right, the next item that has been separated is 12.5.1. Sorry, yes, the motion as amended, it's being referred.
But through the chair, it's a referral, so
It's a
referrals.
referral, so. So let's move on to 12.5.1, which is the 2023 variance update to include Brantford Police Service. And Councilor McCreary, you asked for this to be separated.
Mayor, I did indeed, and I have an amendment would you like me to speak first to it and then introduce the amendment later? What's your preference, Mayor?
Why don't you speak to it, and then we'll see if anybody else wants to speak to it before we hear your amendment.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. So although I was not a member of the Finance Committee, members of council are able to attend the off committees that their partners are legitimate members of. So I was present for the Finance Committee meeting these many days ago when we had the presence of the police chief and his CFO to explain a significant variance with respect to their 2023 budget. And it was most unsatisfactory in terms of being able to receive answers to some of the questions. Police staff were either unable or unwilling to answer the questions posed. Some things that really one should have expected them to be cognizant of the answers. For instance, the number of officers who left their employ in 2023, the total amount that they've expended on legal fees in 2023, an accounting of why the vehicle lease account was over by $65,000 and whether or not there was a corresponding decrease in the capital purchase of vehicles, which was given as the reason for the excess in leases. The apparently surprise need for $250,000 worth of new handguns. The answer to the question, did you get compensated for sending a number of police constables to Ottawa a year ago? Frequency of financial reports reviewed by the chief and CFO, whether or not all the new administrative hires are on board yet, and the frequency of year-to-date, and the provision of year-to-date budgets and actuals, which were reported at the last budget. So these were questions that were posed, unable to be answered, and they were then forwarded in writing to the Brantford Police Service to be answered prior to the next meeting of Finance Committee in December, Mayor.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was attending that meeting at the finance meeting, and I think we had referred to that. We would have the police chief present at our next December finance meeting with answers to the questions that he couldn't have answered the day of finance committee. I did understand that they have a new CFO, and certainly they were a very unprepared group. But I am looking forward to them coming in December to come with us to be able to discuss all the shortfalls and where those shortfalls are, and at least come prepared far better than they were at the finance meeting. So I see you have an amendment here. I'll speak to that after if we have to, but that was my understanding that was there. So just making that clear to see where we're going to be in December versus having stuff brought up here tonight.
Councillor Sullivan.
Point of order. I thought their resolution's a deferral.
No.
It says the following be deferred for one meeting cycle.
But we're going to have an amendment to include a referral that'll have instructions.
Can you refer a defer? I'm just curious. I thought deferrals were time and place, that's all.
Yeah, it's really a referral, and it's a referral now with some instructions.
Does that first one need to be changed from deferral to referral?
Well, we can still have instructions on a deferral, so that's still permissible. I mean, I suppose really I should have had this motion to amend on the floor first and then the debate. Fair enough, but since I've already gone down this road, I think there's one or two others that wanted to speak, but Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too was on that finance committee meeting, and one of the things that wasn't brought up was the fact that they waited until the 11th hour to mention that they had this shortfall. Any other business out there would have been watching the shortfall as it's growing, made the necessary adjustments, or at least approached us with these concerns, and that wasn't done. So,
Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, so I also attended the Finance Committee meeting and was actually very uncomfortable at the end of the meeting. City Council does not have the authority to direct staff of the Brantford City Police. That is the responsibility of the Police Services Board. And following some of the questions that were asked at the Finance Committee meeting, I actually went back and reviewed the agenda and the minutes of the Brantford Police Services Board meetings. And I can tell you from that review that the Brantford Police Services Board has received quarterly financial updates from the Chief Financial Officer, and they are included in the agenda package and were discussed, and those reports were received according to the minutes at the Police Services Board. What made me very uncomfortable was the fact that the chair of the Finance Committee is also chair of the Police Services Board. So the questions that were being asked at the Finance Committee of the chief were questions that we certainly would have had answers to at the level of the chair of the Finance Committee. So that was my first feeling that we don't have the authority to direct staff of the Brantford Police Services. In fact, when I read the report that came forward from our staff, I took it as an FYI. This is a report coming forward. So I don't believe that these questions and the answers to them, that the format is for the Finance Committee to direct Brantford Police Services staff. And perhaps I could get our staff to make a comment on that.
So can member of staff comment on this, please? Question raised by Councillor Hunt.
Through you, Mayor Davis, to Councillor Hunt. Yes, I believe you are correct. We cannot give direction to staff of police services. What can happen is a request of the board to send a representative, whether that's a member of the board or a member of the police service to attend, but that direction can't come staff to staff.
Anything else, Councillor Hunt?
Just point of clarification, it also can't come from Brantford City Council to Brantford Police staff.
Okay. So we'll have Councillor Van Tilborg and Councillor Sluss. Oh, then Councillor Martin.
This is regarding the amendment, correct?
Correct.
And the amendment says requests. And I don't think that there's a problem with us requesting. One of the things that I did find somewhat unusual at the Finance Committee is that there was nothing in where we normally will have a delegation, and we know that there's a delegation presentation. That was not abundantly clear. In fact, I was quite surprised that a delegation presentation had arrived. Is there any information on how that came about? Because if I recall correctly, the chief was in transit and coming over here. When were we told that they were arriving, or did we ask them to arrive at the last finance meeting?
Through you, Mayor Davis, to Councillor Van Tilborg. Once the variance report had been received by the board and that was made public, we did advise staff that we were going to be preparing a report for our Finance Committee to provide a revised variance update to include the number they had disclosed, and provided them an opportunity if they wished to come and speak, which they did.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Next, Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't sit on the Finance Committee, so I didn't see all this unfold, but it probably through you, Mr. Mayor, to Joelle. Well, if it's a city department, we get variance reports constantly that we know if we're over budget, under budget, we know where we are in each budget as we go through a year, correct?
That's through you, Mayor Davis. Yes, that's correct, Councillor Sluss. We do try to provide regular reporting on our variances.
Right. Do we receive similar updates from the police services board?
Whenever we bring our variance report forward, we do reach out to our boards for them to provide any variance information they have that can also be disclosed in our report. At the time our variance report came forward in September, the police did not at that time disclose a variance for us to include in our report.
Okay, good. I'm just reading the numbers. I don't know how they got there because again, I'm not part of this, but it looks like they were in excess of $1.75 million over budget. And that didn't seem to set off any alarm bells until it hit the finance committee. Am I understanding that correctly?
From a staff perspective, we have no financial oversight of police or the police services board. So that their report to their board was the first time we were made, we were apprised of the situation as well.
So that would be the first time that anybody outside of that board or that department would know. Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Thank you.
Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, this whole thing, I don't think was handled properly. This should have gone through the police services board. Unfortunately, the request was straight to the chief as an opportunity to come and speak to it. And he wasn't expecting the level of questioning that he received at the finance committee. It has since gone to the police services board. We've discussed it briefly and we've put it on the agenda for a meeting next week. So it's something that will be discussed. Some of the questions were operational in nature and the board doesn't even get those answers unless the chief feels that it's not sensitive stuff and can answer it. So some of the questions won't be answered. Others will be, but possibly in writing. We're not really sure how this is going to be handled. Once the board discusses this, we'll know better. But it's something that unfortunately wasn't handled right in the first place. So we're trying to rectify that and make sure that this is done properly going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCreary, why don't you give us this motion demand, which I believe is a request, is it not?
Yes, you'll just have to give me a moment until I can find it, Mayor. Well, there it is. Thank you, clerk. So I'm seeking a seconder for this. And let me say it reads as follows. The city council respectfully requests in capitals that the Brantford Police Service Board give direction to Police Chief Davis to require his attendance at the December Finance Committee, fully prepared to answer any and all inquiries regarding 2022 and 23 budgets and expenditures, and that written responses to outstanding November Finance Committee questions and undertakings be provided to the city clerk well in advance of the December Finance Committee meeting. And
Do you have a seconder?
I'm
Second
looking
by
for a
Councillor Van
seconder.
Tilburg.
yeah,
So you got a seconder?
yeah. So let me speak to this, Mayor, if I will. I heard a previous speaker allude to giving direction to the police chief. I didn't hear that. I didn't see that, and I certainly don't recall that from the December Finance Committee meeting. Perhaps I wasn't paying attention, but I think we can do without vague allusions with respect to commentary like that in future. So this strictly, I mean, we all understand the relationship of police to board, to council, to citizenry. So we're asking the board to give direction to the chief to have him come here and answer the questions. And, you know, when I look at the word operational as referenced by my ward mate, I would be most interested to see a definition to that word, because I think there probably is a definition that can be had, and the word operational should not be used by any chief of police in any municipality as a way to avoid responsibility to his or her board. And I think the board would be well served to get a definition of
Can you
that.
stick to your amendment? Let's,
I am,
you're
I am
not,
sticking to it.
you're going beyond it. Let's just stick to the
I'm
amendment, please.
sticking to my amendment, yes. My amendment is to have the chief come and make a presentation to us, and I'm speaking to that, Mayor. So at that meeting, perhaps there could be an explanation of what the word operational means and how it pertains to the sharing of information with not only the board, but with city council and with the community.
Any other debate on the amendment, Councillor Sluss?
Not debate. I just wonder if it's friendly, Mr. Mayor, and it's just requesting the chief to show up. I think it should be chief and appropriate staff.
I see the mover of the amendment nodding his head. Is that affirmation?
Yes.
Yes. And Councillor Van Tilburg, yes. Okay, good, friendly. Any other debate? Seeing none? If I can have the vote. Oh, well, you have to keep your hand up when I look. How's that? Okay, so you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion is pretty well redundant because it's already going to be on the agenda for the next Police Services Board next week. We had a budget meeting this week and it was briefly discussed there, but it was agreed that it would be put on the agenda for the meeting next week. So I'll vote for it because it's redundant, but.
Point of clarification, if I may, Mayor.
Did you hear? Councillor Caputo, next.
Yeah, I'm just gonna chime in here as well, because I agree with Councillor Martin on this, is that I think we left it this way at the last finance meeting. And they have a police board meeting before we get back to finance. So I agree, I think it's moot. I'll support it. But at the end, I think we've already kind of gone over this and we're just beating it up for no reason.
Hang on. Point of clarification to your motion or the amendment? What is it?
I would ask staff to clarify that the amendment before us today came at the request of the chief of police.
That's not a clarification. That's just further debate. You can hold that till you get your second go around. That's not a point of clarification.
Okay, my clarification.
No, you're
is
not,
then that
you're not.
the
Cut his
amendment is here
microphone
at the
off.
request
Cut
of the
Councilor
chief.
McCurry's microphone off. You're speaking out of turn. All right, you're asking for a second time. So Councillor Van Tilburg, I think you had your hand up. Did you want to?
No, I did not.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Hunt, you're up next.
Okay, so point of clarification so the amendment is asking, city council is requesting that the police services board give direction to the chief. Which can we just not ask the police services board for them to provide the information? And in fact, it may very well be a member of the police services board that should come and speak to council versus the chief and the CFO. They're the ones that are responsible for the police services budget.
All right, so you're stating your position. Now, Councillor McCurry, for a second time to your amendment.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Now, let me state this, that the reason this is before us today is because we did have a request from the chief of police. And I believe the request was that he would either be unable or unwilling, and it was vague as to which those would be, to appear before us without this amendment from council giving direction to the board for him to appear. So that is my clarification, Mayor, to put those at ease who think it might be redundant. It is our position tonight that it is not redundant. It may be made redundant by an action of the Police Services Board, but that's beyond our scope and our control.
All right, I'll call the vote then on the amendment.
The amendment to provide instructions to the deferral carries on a recorded vote of 7-2. Members of council voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCurry, Van Tilburg, Martin Caputo, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councillors Hunt and Samuel.
Any further debate on or discussion on the resolution as amended? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, would you please take a vote? Take the vote on this, please.
The deferral as amended carries on a recorded vote of 8-1. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, McCreary, Martin, Sless, Caputo, Sullivan, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councillor Hunt.
All right, let's move on to the next one, which is item 12.5.2 from the Finance Committee report update on capital projects. And Councillor McCreary, you asked for this to be separate.
I did indeed, Mayor. This is the finance capital report, and probably very few folks in the community read the details of these reports. And I just would like to point out that we had 43 capital projects in the past year that were under budget. And I know we always make the headlines if we go a couple of bucks over, or maybe a couple of $1,000 over, or, you know, maybe in larger increments. But this is reason for celebration. So we saved $5 million on a $28 million budget overall. And these are projects across the realm of the corporation. And I think staff do a pretty darn good job for us throughout the corporation. And it's a shame we don't get the headlines for doing good as we do, and we might go over by $1 or $2. And that's my comment, Mayor. Thank you.
See no further discussion. Mr. Clerk, take the vote on this.
Item 12.5.2 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, move on to item 12.54 from the Finance Committee report. That's the third quarter casino update. And Councillor McCreary, you asked for this to be separate.
I did indeed, Mayor. It's my night to highlight good news. We have another 1.39 million third quarter casino revenues. That gives us 3.86, I believe, year to date. And to remind those in the community, because certainly councillors don't need any reminding, that 40% of that goes towards our legacy component, 25% to community groups, 20 to capital, 10% to council priorities, and 5% to cultural built heritage. We continue to benefit from the propensity of folks in Ontario to drop money at casinos. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is good news. It shows a return to pre-pandemic levels for our casino revenues. During the pandemic, of course, the casino was shut down several times. As a result, we got far less money from the casino, even though we had commitments for that money. So we had to juggle some of the funds that were a little more discretionary, to cut them off for a while. But this return to pre-pandemic levels allows us to return to our original funding formula for that money. And Councillor McCreary outlined already the percentages to the various funds, but it's nice to see that those funds will be growing again and able to do the good work that the funds are used for. So this is definitely good news.
Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wonder, is the casino sharing information when the impact of the OHL games? Anecdotally, I've heard there's a spike in their business every game day. I would just like to be able to quantify that with actual numbers instead of saying, yeah, it goes up when games are being played. Do we have data that tells us exactly what it's going up and what the impact is?
To you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Sless, we have been discussing with the casino. We don't the word exactly. They've given us a general that they're doing better. They've seen more walking traffic pre and post games, so they're happy with that. But they haven't given us exact numbers. We should see them in our next quarterly report, though.
Okay, I think that would be helpful to help folks understand as this process of an OHL team in the city moves forward, that we have data to share with people explaining. They just say, yeah, it's good for the community. Well, what does that mean? This is in dollars and cents, and it tells you exactly what that means. We can't tell them numbers of restaurants that are burgeoning every night that the games are being played, but there are things that we can quantify, and anything that we can, I'd like to be able to.
We will, through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll try to do that as in our discuss the casino. They are a private corporation. and they can only share so much information. We
Yep.
will get the information through our quarterly reports, but that's about as far as we can go. But they will show higher and lower, but they are seeing higher walking traffic both before and after, and very happy with it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 12.54 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilors Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so now move on to the urgent reports. And we have two of them, one Sports and Entertainment Center update, and the other the Municipal Accommodation Revenue Tool Task Force report. Councilor Sullivan, I understand you're prepared to move item 13.1 so we can get this on the floor. Please read the resolution, stage flicker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor McCreary, that report 2023-711 titled Sports and Entertainment Center Update be received, and that staff provide a report on the findings of a public consultation campaign to be conducted in December 2023, whereby the community will be consulted for their input regarding venue features and uses related to the new sports and entertainment center adjacent to and including the current Civic Center site at 79 Market Street, with findings to be reported to council as part of the Phase 3 report in January 2024. Thank you.
And council members, I hope you'll agree that that makes sense to have staff have them do a presentation on this. It's fairly significant. There is a fairly detailed report. I thought it would be appropriate to have a presentation from staff to help lead off the discussion so that when we're discussing it, we can focus more on debating the issues, as opposed to just asking questions. So unless anybody objects, I'm going to proceed in that manner. All right, so you want a motion to waive the rules? Okay, so moved by, as is your right, so moved by Councilor McCreary, seconded by Councilor Martin. Any discussion on the motion to waive? We'll need 2/3. So it's a motion to waive the rules to consider this to allow for the presentation. So any debate? Let's call the vote, please.
The motion to waive the rules carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0 with the required 2/3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilor Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samwell, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, if we can proceed then to have the presentation for a total of 10 minutes inclusive of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With me, I have Maria Visaki, our Director of Communications, Community Engagement, and Customer Service. And on the screen and online is our consultant, Ron Baduka from KKR Advisors Limited. He's here if there's any technical questions. So thank you for the opportunity to present on this and add some more context to the report, Mr. Mayor. You can see that the illustration of a potential new sport entertainment center for the city of Brantford. Back in February of the 2023, we talked about bringing an OHL team here, and we signed an MOU with the Hamilton Bulldogs to move here and become the Brantford Bulldogs. At that time, the economic impact, and we were seeing it in our community, was estimated almost $4.4 million. The OHL's franchise would boost the city's sport-friendly reputation, making it more active, vibrant, and appealing for future investments, notably in the downtown. And as well as what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 months, it enhances civic pride and builds confidence in our community. Those were all things from the February 7th reports. On February 28th, Mr. Mayor, council was prompted by the sale of 2,400 Bulldogs tickets in probably the first 3 days, and season tickets, directed staff, and this is only an excerpt of the motion that was made and passed unanimously on February 28th, to develop a plan that includes a recommended location, cost estimates, including capital and operating, a financing plan, and delivery timelines of a new sports and entertainment facility for the city of Brantford, and report back before December 31st, 2023. We also, we did this in consultation with KKR Advisors, and the initial assessment revealed that Brantford has a rare and social economic opportunity to elevate our national sports status and revitalize the city's core, drawing in tourism and drawing world-class entertainment. When we saw that business case assessment in September, Mr. Paduco highlighted the growing population, but also more importantly, the growing income in this community. So the process, Mr. Mayor, and some people are confused by the process and what we're bringing here. On September 7th, we had a business case assessment. It showed us we could support a team. It showed us how big the arena should be. And it basically was 5,300 seats they felt it should be. And that we could actually support an OHL team and compare us to OHL cities. And we do really well. We punch above our weight. That was the phase one. Phase two was look at location assessment. And we did that by doing a system, which this report details the various 33 metrics we went through and weighted them all, and went from 10 sites all around the city, which we did in camera because we're negotiating at various sites. And then we narrowed it down to 3, and we came forth with the one here you see today. And then the public inputs, council asked for public inputs. That will be underway, and Maria will explain that in a few slides. Phase 3, I want to be very clear, will come in mid-January. So I was directed to bring this back by mid-December. We thought we'd pause for a month, do public inputs in December. And in mid-January, we'll be bringing back a report about how we're going to finance this and what partnerships we can do, what developers we can work with. And if that gets approved, we would then start working on a plan for proposal and development of the sites and for construction and development of the Sport Entertainment Center. As mentioned, the site evaluation, when we looked at the site evaluation for a number of reasons, the spot downtown at the Civic Center was rated #1 in almost all categories for ease of development, as well as deemed to be the highest importance, the Brantford City Council, and as well as Civic Center ranked highest in all categories, deemed to be extremely important. The site evaluation is located in a floodplain, potentially adding to the cost of development possibly. The site benefits from existing parking in the city with 950 parking spaces at the parkade and other parking around it. And as well as the official plan designates as an area that's culturally entertainment and administrative heart of the city, a key shopping district and destination for residents, students, tourists, and businesses. And has high economic impact potential for critical masses of use of people and complementary developments. To show you a couple illustrations what the architect did for us. And then you'll be sitting beside the current Civic Center attached to the auditorium. And I'll turn it over to Maria to talk with the public input.
Thanks, Brian. As Brian mentioned, public input is definitely a major element within this initiative and overall project. As per council's direction, staff have worked to develop a campaign that will run throughout the month of December, where we will gather various perspectives from the community and provide a number of different channels in which to provide that feedback. So we will use our Let's Talk Brantford forum with a survey on there asking people to identify potential uses for the facility, potential amenities that they want to see, potential activities, events, the type of entertainment they want to see there, what they'd like to see happen in and around the downtown as a result of this facility attracting new business and new visitors to the downtown core. So the survey will really focus on the potential for this facility. And with that, we will see the community's reaction to whether or not something like this is something that would excite them and how they would like to see it used. So we will use the Let's Talk Brantford forum surveys. We'll use social media, but we also think it's really important that we provide an in-person opportunity as well at the site before December 20th, so we're not crossing over into the holidays. But the forum, the survey, all of the Let's Talk Brantford tools will be available throughout the holiday season, passed into the new year, but the meeting, the in-person meeting will happen prior to the holiday season. So really, we want as many diverse perspectives as we can get. In that time period, we'll also do outreach with a number of citizen committees. We'll do some outreach specifically with the BIA in the downtown. We'll do some outreach with the Granville Council on Aging, just to make sure that as many demographics as possible have an opportunity to provide input. So that the way in which this project is shaped is something that is informed by public input.
So, Mr. Mayor, the next steps for this will be, as I've already mentioned, phase two will be seeking endorsement this evening to move forward with phase two elements, which is the public engagements on the site, looking at amenities and other features that people find interesting in the site, and look for opinions on the site and what we can do. And last but not least, in phase three, which will be mid-January, we'll bring back a financing and partnership assessments and a decision whether the community, whether how we would finance this and partner with people. If that's approved, we'd move ahead with the development process and looking at working with partnerships and building such a facility if that goes ahead in January. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? We got about 3 minutes. Councilor McCreary.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. Will the consultation include folks that are currently involved in say the entertainment and sports fields in the city of Brantford? I'm thinking of the Bulldogs, minor sports, Sanderson Center patrons.
Through the chair, certainly, those are all excellent suggestions. I'll work with my colleagues in economic development and tourism and parks and recreation, make sure those groups are made aware of all of the opportunities.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, fish where the fish are, I guess, is a good start. Now, Mr. Hutchings, if I read correctly, what this hints at is a twinning of Civic Center with a modern larger arena and entertainment complex to maximize efficiency and operating costs. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, yes, that's exactly what we're looking at, and plus use the back end of the building for, share Zambonis and share, those sorts of things back and forth between the two buildings. One could be a practice facility, one can be a game facility, those sorts of things. There's lots of possible resources, uses for both.
And in that respect, it's not dissimilar to our experience at Gretzky Center, where we're maximizing our operation using the same staff that would be required in a single building.
Exactly, yes.
So there's no plan to tear down Civic Center, to be clear.
Not at all. That's why they're in the pictures. It's actually a very well needed amenity to the larger building.
And would you care to venture a guess at the kind of investment we've put into that building in the last decade? New seats, new boards, HVAC, junior A dressing room. It's millions of dollars worth of upgrades, right?
It's 15 to 20 million.
Yeah. It's not the kind of investment one sends to the landfill like we did with the yellow rink, even though we paid for it for years afterwards.
No, it's a very companion piece to the new sport entertainment center. We would never get rid of it. So they work well together.
Thank you, folks.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff. This is for us to fulfill our agreement. For anybody who wasn't watching the prior meetings, when we brought the Bulldogs in, we agreed that we would explore a new facility in order to get them to come here in the first place. Is that correct?
It's a great question, Councilor. The answer is yes. I should have included that in my slides. I forgot that one. Thank you. Yes.
I got some emails and I just want people to understand that this was all part of the original movement. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank staff very much for doing that presentation to help clarify what it is we're dealing with tonight and what the process is for moving forward. So we had the resolution. It's on the floor, open for debate. Councilor Van Tilburg, you're first.
It was mentioned that there had been investment in the Civic Center in the past. My question is around from the time that the Bulldogs entertained us oh wait, last year, I guess it is. Time's been flying. We're around that time this time last year. How much investment have we put into the Civic Center? And how much investment have they put into the Civic Center?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So just, I wanted to make sure I clarify from.
From last year, from
to
the time of our meeting, not
Yep.
what we did in the past, and the extra, the updated seats. But we had a building sitting there and they've showed up and now we put some in, they put some in. What do those numbers work out?
So the arrangement we did with the Bulldogs was that they did the build. We worked very close with them on them. We were to contribute 3 million to that build. We don't know what their total is. We did see some Class D estimates early, which we almost double or triple our contribution that they were putting in. Plus, we also have our HVAC unit we're putting in as well. So that's, as you know, that came to council, it's around 4.2 million, plus the 3 million that we contributed to the renovations at the center. So that's 7.2. And again, the Bulldogs being a private corporation, they haven't revealed what they put in, but we did see some estimates that would probably match what we put in.
So but basically a 1-to-1. All right. And I think that the public will be looking at usage. And so when we do that public engagement, can we have handy the usage of the building now, attendance type figures? And in other words, people can make up their minds pretty quick if they see an empty building or a building that's been used. And when you mentioned the AC, the air conditioning HVAC units that we've implemented, the benefits that we get from the Civic Center with the usage of that we might not have had in the past, because we can't predict, we can't say what that's happening now, but I'm assuming that that's in the future, right? That benefit. And finally, I know my last question, because they're saying twinning. How do the buildings work and that twinning? Like you say, we need them. I need it explained to me, and I'm sure others would too, and that'll probably come up in future questions. How and why?
I'm going to pass this over to consultant, Mr. Paducah, to answer that question. Ron?
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to participating virtually in this meeting. So by twinning, what you're looking to do there is share a lot of the infrastructure that you would need to operate both the existing Civic and the new facility. And that's everything from chillers and things like that, stuff that would be in ground, but also other services like the Zamboni, and equally importantly, the staff. You do not need to have mirrored staff operating both. The two of them one set plus a few extra people can operate both buildings at the same time, which means that the cost to operate is going to be less by doing two than just doing 1+1.
Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a resident just text me and ask, why not build a 12,000 seat arena so that you could host major concerts? Can we get an explanation for that?
I'll refer that was on the September 7th meeting. I'll refer that to Mr. Paducah as well. He did the sizing analysis.
Yeah. So there's two elements to that. One, that given Brantford and where it is located in the shadow of the broad Greater Toronto area, with Scotiabank Arena, with Rogers Centre, with Budweiser Stage, and all of the entertainment elements that are happening there, combined with what OVG is looking to do in Hamilton with their renovation at First Ontario Centre to make that a primary concert venue and hockey arena second, and also understanding that Brantford is still in the shadow of the 10,000 seat building in London. It will be hard to compete to get a lot of events of that magnitude to come into Brantford. We think you will get a few. We spoke to a lot of the event promoters, some of the major event promoters in Ontario that are bringing shows in. The sweet spot for Brantford is going to be a couple of those per year, and equally importantly, with a bunch of family shows that are going to come in that are catered to, the young growing population that is happening currently in Brantford. In terms of the sizing, you want to make sure that the building is large enough to accommodate those events, but you do not want it to be too large that it detracts from people wanting to go to an event and buy season tickets. The adage in the event industry is empty seats breed empty seats and sellouts breed sellouts. The OHL team would track 4,000 fans a game, 4,000 playing in front of 12 and playing in front of 8,000 empty seats. Doesn't mean that the team would be able to sell season tickets because you can always go and walk up. So what it does, it helps create a better demand and ultimately create a better fan experience, because as you saw in the image that Mr. Hutchings showed, everyone is going to be on top of the ice, on top of the action, and it's going to make a much better atmosphere.
If I can just add to that as well, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is be roughly 5,300 seats. But when you have a concert there, I think you can get about 6,600 for basketball because you have the floor space as well.
Correct.
Okay, and just to clarify, capacity, 5,300 seats, I was estimating standing room at about 400 for a hockey game. Would I be in the ballpark?
At our current Civic Center,
No, at the proposal.
the proposal, I'll let Ron speak to that.
Yeah, so based on the design, the total capacity, including standing room and bar stools and seats in the suites, will be just under 5,300, and that includes standing room. When you have an end stage concert, so you have seating on the floor, you can get upwards of 6,800 people into that building.
So when we keep saying 5,300 seats, we're not correct, right? There isn't 5,300 seats. There's capacity for 5,300 people.
Correct. The design that was shown does not go beyond the property line of the Civic Center property. If it was to go 4 feet or 5 feet on either side, you could have another row of seats added, which would bring the capacity to 5,300 fixed seats. So a total then capacity of 5,800 and a total capacity with concerts of 7,000.
Okay.
What we did, though, is said we kept it within the confines of the property lines in order to be able to do that.
Thank you. One final question, or I guess statement that you could maybe react to. I was asked by a resident as well, not to build another box beside a box. Can we build a building that has something substantial to it, some character to it, not a box housing a rink?
Correct. The final design, which will be approved by council, and the marching orders that the architects will have, will be to make sure that you animate the heck out of the exterior of it to make this, you know, the godsend destination that Brantford deserves.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Samwell.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to, I understand that the plan is to keep it within the confines of the Civic Center property at this point. But what I do have a question about, I've received a lot of concerns about parking being an issue already, and I was wondering how we're going to address that with the fact that there is only so much space that we have. If someone could answer that for me.
Parking, I think if I can through you, Mr. Chair, parking, we've had some discussions with the neighborings. What's happening is, in fact, the market, there's only about 30% of the market space is being used. And we're still only seeing 50 to 60 spots being used in the parkade, which, as we know, is about 3 minutes up the road. So people are choosing to park as close as they possibly can. But they still have another 920 spaces sitting at the parkade that are sitting open. So if the building were to be built, parkade is right there. It'll become one of our biggest assets in this community, that parkade, especially for all the other condo developments going on. So that's available. Plus, there might be some other spots we might be looking at in the downtown core as well. Don't for parking, but that's future planning.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Well, I think I might want to say a few words. Imagine that, eh? So, why are we considering a new arena? Well, we've got an arena that's about 60 years old. And yes, we've made recent modifications, but those modifications, they barely meet OHL standards. It would be of the various OHL arenas, there's only one arena that is about, I think it's Owen Sound, is about the same capacity. All the rest, especially the ones near us, Kingston, Guelph, Windsor, Sarnia, the cities of similar size, their OHL arenas, entertainment centers run in the 4,000 to 6,000 to 7,000 range. So what we're proposing here is exactly quite similar to what it is that we see in comparable cities. And also the Bulldogs tell us this is what fits well for an OHL team. And so that's the reality. We know that to the Civic Center upgraded, brought the Bulldogs here. It won't keep them here long term. And so you may say, well, why would we want the Bulldogs here long term? And a couple of reasons why. I mean, if you attend the games, you'll know why. But I understand there are people in town that they don't follow hockey, or they're not interested in hockey. But this center is about much more than just hockey. And OHL hockey is much more than just hockey games. This arena, entertainment center, will provide increased opportunities for families to participate in local entertainment and recreational events. They won't be going to Kitchener. They won't be going to Kitchener, London, Hamilton, Toronto. We'll keep more of that money, more of that activity here in Brantford. The economic impact, if you view the report that came to us in the summer, and it's online, it can be viewed. It's an excellent report. I'd certainly have an interest in this. I'd certainly recommend you have a look at it, and hopefully Maria will get it more widely available. But the economic impact is potentially, with the team here, is $7.6 million per year. And that's not only the wages and the cost of running this new sports entertainment center, but it's all the spin-off economic benefit that has. And that 7.6 million, 6 million of that is in wages. More wages for people in our community, for families in our community. And you may say, well, why would you need a new arena? I mean, you're only getting about 3,000 in the arena. Well, it's because our arena only holds about 3,000. And the study does show us when you have a new arena, it increases attendance by 34 to 140%. And that's what gets us into the 5,000 range. And, we also know as a city that the report tells us, well, we can support an OHL team. The OHL teams only go to communities that are growing and have good prospects. They don't go to communities that are stagnant or in the economic doldrums. And so what it is it's a shot in the arm to our community. It's a vote of confidence in our community. It also elevates our profile across Ontario and the nation. And I mean, if you're not involved in hockey and follow hockey, you may think, well, how can that be? But it's kind of like when you become an OHL team, city, I'm not going to say you've gone to the big leagues, but you enter into a different strata in terms of cities and how cities compare themselves to one another, how industries that they're looking to locate in a city. These are the things they consider. Do the citizens have confidence in their own city to build a proper sports entertainment center that shows what a city can do? These are things that people who come to cities, whether they're businesses or individuals, these are things they look at. Also, this facility also is working to unite our community in the sense that it's creating this social network. When you go to these games, you would not believe what the amount of social interaction that happens once or twice a week, 3,000 to 3,500 people. It's creating a community that has a greater social interaction. So those are some of the great advantages to having a proper sports entertainment center. And I'd say more, but I've gone beyond 4 minutes, so I have to. No one's timing me. Anybody can object. So it's interesting, the location. I mean, tonight that's really kind of what we're talking about at this stage 2. you know, is a downtown location next to the Civic Center, does it make sense? And we've heard about the efficiencies that are driven by being next to the other building, sharing things like the coolers and staff and whatnot. But it was also interesting. Let me tell you about my experience this summer. I went to Ostrowiecopolski, that is on my own dime. This is a city that we're twinned with in Poland. And it's a similar size city. And 2 years ago, they built a new arena, about 4,500 for their sport, which is European handball and basketball. So kind of similar in size to what we're about to build, maybe, if it's approved. And it's interesting talking to the politicians there. The huge debate was, should it be on the outskirts of the city because of parking and availability of parking, or should it be downtown? And frankly, the debate, the mayor in that case prevailed, and it was downtown location. They've been there about 2 years, and there was about 20 parking spots right outside the arena. And it's proven to be a huge success for that city. It was interesting. I talked to they have parties and councils in Poland, the leader of the official opposition, and he actually was opposed to the downtown location. He admitted to me that experience is born to be, that has been the right decision. It's breathed new life into the downtown of that community. And then we went to St. Catharines this past week, last week, to the new Meridian Center, which is about 5 years old, about 5,300. And we saw the Ice Dogs play the Bulldogs. And talking to the mayor there, the mayor was a counselor when they made a decision to build that arena. And I talked to other officials there, and they said it breathed new life into their downtown, which was in the doldrums. And they actually have 50 parking spots right beside their arena. And so there's parking that occurs throughout the downtown. And they said what it's done is it's led to a 4-fold increase in the value of the property within a 500-meter radius of the arena. In other words, it's led to new building, new construction, and it's increased the value of those properties, which has a direct benefit to the municipality in terms of property taxes because they're based on municipal assessment. We're already seeing the impact of this potential. The Empire Developments that have bought the Freshco Plaza, they've already modified some of what they're doing so that some of the development on that they're planning on Market Street, instead of it being inward like the Market Square concept, like stores inward to the development, on that side, there'll be an outward component because they recognize that if there's a new arena, there'll be all kinds of pedestrian traffic in that area that they seek to capitalize on. So already, even before it's built, the potential of it being built is having a dramatic impact upon adjoining development. I realize people have a legitimate, and this is a serious question, which is, can we afford this? That's a good question. And that's not what we're asking tonight, and that's not what we're dealing with tonight. But unfortunately, the cost of arenas has sports entertainment, it's increased dramatically over the last 20 years. Like 20 years ago in 2001, I mean, Guelph in 2000 built their arena about the same size, and they spent 21 million. And then Oshawa and Windsor in 2006, 2007, they built new arenas about the same size. And by then the price had crept up the cost to 45 to 50 million. But it's over the last 10 years, the costs have increased dramatically. And we've seen that. You see that in the report. The most recent arena that constructed in Canada for an OHL type team is in Gatineau, Quebec, 4,000 seat arena constructed in 2021. And that was 102 million. So the estimate of 114 to 130 million, I mean, that reflects even the inflation that's occurred in construction costs. It's been pretty dramatic over the last 2-3 years. But it's still a good question. And it's an important question to our community. I think that the benefits of a new sports entertainment center are there to be seen and will be there. But the cost, is it going to cost our community too much to do this? We don't know the answer to that question. That's coming, that's stage 3 of what the consultant is doing. That report comes to us at the end of January. And then we'll look at the report, we'll look at what the partnerships could be, how it can be financed, and then at that point, make a decision whether we want to take it to the next level, which would be asking for development proposals. So this is stage 2 of 3 or 4 stages. But I think that is the decision that is being made in stage 2, which is downtown location for this facility, does make a lot of sense. We know it's met all the metrics, and just common sense and what we've seen in other communities that have done this recently tells us the downtown location is the best. Otherwise, if you're doing it on the outskirts near a Highway 403 or QEW, you end up with a white elephant, which just serves for sporting events. And then once the sporting event is held, people just go home, jump in the cars and go home. Whereas in a downtown location, it creates spin-off benefits for stores and restaurants. And I've gone on too long. But as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate. But we do have some pretty hard decisions coming up where we'll be seeking full input of the city and the residents in this city, and also having a lot more information. And I encourage anyone who has a real interest in this, please go to the city website, look at the reports that have been done. They're really detailed, but they're very easy to follow and read and understand, and answers a lot of questions and provides a lot of the information that we've been looking at as we've gone through this process. So any other discussion? Councilor McCreary.
I'm pleased to see that the mayor took full advantage of the waive the rules to perhaps go a little beyond his speaking opportunity, but it was worthwhile. And thank you, Mayor, for your lengthy but valuable discourse. So yes, we're receiving tonight, and we're laying out the groundwork for a community consultation. The decision we have made is it will go adjacent to the Civic Center. Many of the other decisions are yet to be on our plates, as the mayor did say. Financing, that remains a question mark, whether or not we can attract folks to help us pay. As Max Blau once said to me, we're not in the business of doing these things. We're in the business of getting other people to do them for us. So perhaps we can attract some partners that will bear part of this load. We have a pretty good one already. There's consideration for adjacent investment that will benefit the municipality. And as we create opportunity in the immediate neighborhood, that tends to underwrite our long-term expenditure with respect to the operating costs, as we'll have contingent tax revenues coming in as a result of what we may do there. A catalyst for other things, partnerships, all things that we're going to be fully debating. A benefit to the downtown, as the mayor said, and what we saw. Councillor Sullivan and I were with the mayor last week, and we went to another city which has an OHL team and a fairly nice arena, although not as nice as the one we'll build. And I can say that knowing for sure that neither the mayor nor the councillor nor the CAO would be watching tonight's proceedings. So, from our point of view at present, this all looks very good. Lots still to be hashed out. And yes, we do have other opportunities. We do have other responsibilities. We do have to build housing thanks to the neglect of the federal and provincial governments, because they've laid that all on us. And we do have a new hospital to build thanks to the requirement by the Ontario government that they side shift their responsibility, which should be entirely theirs, to a large percentage of community development to get any sort of new medical treatment in our city. So yeah, we've got lots to do. This is important. One of the most frequently asked questions we get from the community is, when is Costco coming? And on the face of it, this is not unlike Costco, which is sort of a measure of community achievement. We have a Costco, we have an OHA team. These are the marks that make a community proud of itself, and not to put too fine a point on it, but they mean you've hit the big time. Hopefully, folks, you'll do as the mayor said, have a look at the report, give us your comments. There'll be a number of venues to comment on, and then we go forward with the next phase in the new year.
Councilor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had to chime in just for a couple of things, and that being, I've lived in Brantford since 2011, and the one thing that this city was missing is what we currently have. And that is an OHL hockey team, and the excitement that it's created, and that buzz and that core being there pretty much every game that's been happening there. Doing this project is exciting and brings a whole level to a growing city that we are, and the future of our city and the prosperity of our city and where we're going to be in the next 10 to 15 years. This is just an element that's just going to be a part of it that brings it all together. And people need to understand that. I get a lot of calls, emails asking when we're going to do this and how long will it take. I get very little on the negative side. And as the mayor said, I've lived in cities that have had 5 new buildings, and I've watched the entire downtown core blow up in terms of prosperity because of them. They've taken dead spots and turned them into a very profitable venture. And we have that opportunity to take an area in our city and make it a very profitable venture. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the people of Brantford. I'm excited for where we're going to be and where we're going to get to. With that being said, I really appreciate your passion tonight, Mr. Mayor. I thought it was very, very well done, even though you seemed to talk for about a half an hour.
It's 10 minutes, wasn't half an hour. Any other discussion? Seeing none? Call the vote, please.
Item 13.1 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll move to the next item under urgent reports. And that is the municipal accommodations. Accommodation Revenue Tool Task Force report. And Councilor McCreary, if you could please move that item.
I certainly will, Mayor, and it be seconded by my ward mate, Councilor Martin. Municipal Accommodation Revenue Tool Task Force Report 11/23/23 reads as follows: that report 2023-697 regarding municipal accommodation tax business plan implementation plan and public consultation be received. That the staff be directed to formalize an agreement between the City of Brantford and Ontario Restaurant, Hotel and Motel Association, and that staff be directed to incorporate Brantford's Municipal Services Corporation, named Brantford Tourism Development Corp., if the name is available, and that Mayor Davis and myself, Councillor Celeste and Sokoli, be appointed as board members to the Brantford Tourism Development Corporation, and that 5 citizen members be appointed to the Brantford Tourism Development Corporation following a recruitment committee process composed of the members of the Municipal Accommodation Revenue Tool Task Force to make recommendations to council, and that the Municipal Accommodation Revenue Tool Task Force be disbanded, having completed their mandate. And Mayor, are you pondering what I'm pondering, that there must be a reason for this to come forward tonight?
Tell us about it.
Let me tell you the reason why we need to have this come forward tonight. Our committee met in the past week, and following our discussion about timeframes, it was felt that it would be expedient for us to bring this tonight. Council, having had full appraisal of the merits of this proposal and having supported it on at least one prior occasion, to afford the committee and staff the opportunity to advance this by creating the board of directors for the Municipal Service Corporation, which must be in place before the incorporation. So we have to have this up and running, we believe, March 31st. And it was our feeling that in order to accomplish this, it should have come direct tonight to council, Mayor, rather than going to committee of the whole next month, and thereby losing 30 days in the process. We really don't have a firm grasp on exactly what our timeframes are, but the support of council tonight to grant us that additional 30 days of working time is much appreciated, and will certainly stand us in good stead to be up and running in 3 months.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Call the vote.
Item 13.2 carries on a recorded vote of 7-2. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Mayor Davis. Members opposed: Councillors Van Tilburg and Samuel.
All right, move to resolutions, and there's one resolution on tonight's agenda. Councillor Caputo, I understand you are the mover of that item. Would you please read it and state your seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Sluss, that the agreement of purchase and sale of 371 Powerline Road be approved, and that B, the costs of the acquisition and related closing costs be funded as follows: $84,315 from the Transportation Development Charges Reserve Fund, and $779,160 from the capital fund envelope reserve, that all proceeds from any future disposition of 371 Powerline Road be directed to the capital funding envelope reserve, and that the costs relating to the demolition of 371 Powerline Road be funded from the capital funding envelope reserve, that the required sales by law to authorize the purchase of the lands be presented to City Council for consideration, and that the city clerk be directed to place an agreement of purchase and sale between the corporation of the City of Brantford and the vendor on the signing bylaw for execution by the mayor and city clerk.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none? Call the vote.
Item 14.1 carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
So moving to bylaws, Councillor Hunt, I understand you have the motion for first and second reading.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Samwell, that leave be given to the mover and seconder to introduce the following bylaws for first and second reading. 181-2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 by repeal and replacing Parks and Recreation 18 Community Gardens policy. 182-2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 by repealing and replacing Public Works -017 Green Fleet. 183-2023, a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 by repealing corporate policy 02 Memorial Donations Tributes. 184-2023, bylaw to close and convey the lane fronting Lawrence Street and Ridgewood Drive. 185-2023, a bylaw amending chapter 478 signs, outdoor other advertising devices of the City of Brantford Municipal Code, also known as the sign bylaw, and amending Article 14 billboard sign and Article 16 permit application. 186-2023, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 to repeal and replace finance policy 004. 187-2023, a bylaw to amend County of Brant bylaw 16-16 as it affects the annexed area described in the order made under the Municipal Act 2001, City of Brantford, County of Brant, to regulate the use of land. 188-2023, which is a bylaw to approve the purchase of certain lands and premises within the City of Brantford, 371 Powerline Road. 189-2023, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 160-90, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and location and use of buildings and structures in the city. 190-2023, a bylaw to appoint citizen and liaison members to various committee and task forces. 191-2023, which is a bylaw to appoint members of council to various cities, boards, advisory committees, and task force. 192-2023, which is a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreements individually dated unlisted on Schedule A. One being a license agreement between His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, represented by the Ministry of Infrastructure and the City of Brantford. 2, an amending agreement to the option agreement between the Corporation of City of Brantford and the County of Brant, the Brant County Society for, the SPCA. Number 3, an agreement of purchase and sale between the Corporation of the City of Brantford and Andreas Johannes Rumschut and looks like his wife, 371 Powerline Road. And number 4, which is an agreement between the Corporation of the City of Brantford and Empire Communities for the Parkland over dedication compensation agreement. 5, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 to repeal and replace Parkland over dedication compensation agreement. 6, an agreement of purchase and sale between the Corporation of the City of Brantford and Empire Communities for the Parkland over dedication compensation agreement. 7, and 193, 2023, which is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of City of Brantford with respect to the meeting held on today's date, November 28th, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Does anybody want any of these bylaws separated for discussion purposes at first and second reading? Seeing no request. Mr. Clerk, be please take the vote on first and second reading.
The first and second reading of all bylaws carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillor Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
All right, Councillor Samuel, understanding of the resolution for third and final reading of the bylaws.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg that all bylaws having received a first and second reading be taken as read a third time and finally be passed and signed by the mayor and the clerk.
Does anybody want any of the bylaws separated for discussion purposes at third reading? Seeing no for such request, Mr. Clerk, would you please take the vote?
The third and final reading carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, Celeste McCreary, Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Martin Caputo, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, while I sign the bylaws, we'll do ward announcements. Starting with Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just working on some last minute details, but we do have a free public skate coming to Lions Park in the month of December. I'll be confirming that, so just watch the city pages and my Facebook page for any updates.
Okay. Councillor Samuel.
Thank you. So just a few things to announce tonight. We have a citizen named Ross Enslav and his friends that are doing a free sport for growth for kids 15 and younger. They'll be giving away sports equipment at Earl Haig on Saturday, December 2nd from 11 to 2 p.m. And everybody's welcome, but it's for children 15 and under. The Eagle Place Community Association continues to hold game nights for adults on Friday nights from 5:30 to 7:30 at Doug Snooks Community Center. And they will also be having their Eagle Place holiday event on Saturday, December 16th from 2 to 4 at Doug Snooks Community Center. Thank you.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. Good news is imminent for the long-suffering residents of Dundas Street. According to staff, we're hoping to have that paved within the next week or so, and hopefully then life will be back to normal. And by the way, it's a fine-looking new street. Kudos to our staff for the small but important changes in the layout. And secondly, another paving note, Mayor. I had a look today and it appears as though the paving is complete on the trail realignment in the vicinity of the Lorne Bridge. So that should be available to use by the public, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Maybe there's still some work to be done in the spring, but it looks as though it's just about to become passable. So good news for drivers, cyclists, walkers, and store owners.
Councillor Hunt.
Yes, the Brantland Neighborhood Association is hosting Breakfast with Santa this Saturday from 9 until noon at the Brantland Community Center. We have 2 public meetings coming up in Ward 4. First one is tomorrow night at City Hall at 5:30. Public meeting regarding 796 to 800 Colburn Street development. And on December the 7th, 6 p.m. at the Best Western, and that's a public meeting with regards to 571 West Street development. Thank you.
Councillor Sluss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple, tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock at the Civic Center, the Bulldogs are playing. I believe the game is probably sold out, but certainly go on Ticketmaster, and folks that have seasons tickets that can't make it, put them on the resale part of that site. So if you're looking for tickets, you can probably find something there because everybody can't make every game. So try and get out and support your local team. We've had a lot of discussion about that this evening, and let's keep that place full. And secondly, on Friday evening at 7 o'clock is the official light up of the Glenhurst Christmas lights. And I believe the switch is turned on at 7 o'clock. The mayor, I will undoubtedly be there to pull the switch and light us up for Christmas. So get out there, get in the Christmas spirit, and we'll see everybody on Friday night at around 7 o'clock at the Glenhurst Gardens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to correct something that Councillor Celeste said. Unfortunately, the mayor has a conflict for the lights at Glenhurst, so as mayor of the month, I'll be representing him. So it'll be my honor to throw the switch and start the lights. Oh, I stand corrected then. Apparently he's going to be there.
Did you want to make any other announcements?
No, that's good.
Mix up and probably from my office. So no, Councilor Van Tilburg, Councilor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to reiterate, Councillor Celeste, yes, the lighting of the lights at Glenhurst. Look forward to see not only our mayor, but our mayor of the month there as well. Saturday, December 2nd, Homedale Association will be having their breakfast with Santa and Mrs. Claus. So all residents of that area, please be sure to make it there for that. And just on a final note, I thought it was an absolutely great turnout this past Saturday at the Santa Claus Parade. It was a pleasure to walk alongside the mayor and Councillor Sullivan. Trying to keep them in check was fun and interesting. So it was a great time had by all. And I guess we'll all see everybody at the Bullseye game on the Bulldogs game on Wednesday.
Okay, I have a couple of things I want to say. Announcements. What I noticed on social media, some comments in reference to Bulldogs, thinking that council members have free tickets and priority parking. Well, let's make it clear. There are no freebies for elected members, nor should there be. Many of us have season tickets and we pay for it out of our own pockets, and we have no priority parking. We park just like everybody else. And if you get there early, you can park in the Civic Center. If you get there late, you got to go to the farmer's market or the parkade. And if we golf at the Walter Gretzky Golf Course, we pay. If we go to the Sanderson Center, we pay. There are no freebies for elected politicians, and that's not as a complaint, but just to set the record straight. But more importantly for announcements, City of Brantford, we have a lovely calendar that's coming out this for 2024. I'm holding it up. There are some beautiful pictures in here. It's a wonderful calendar. It's really well organized. It's I think it would look beautiful in anyone's kitchen here in Brantford. And it's being delivered as we speak. Some already have this. Some will be receiving it over the next 2 weeks. And I'm sure that many will want to use it. And if for some reason you don't get a calendar, then you can call City Hall or you can email communications@brantford.ca. That's communications@brantford.ca. And communication staff will make sure that a copy of this beautiful calendar is mailed out to you. So with that, hopefully we'll see a lot of people on Friday evening at Glenhurst for the lighting of the lights, and I'll be there with Councillor Martin.